This video will put your patience on a test, because this won't be a fast video. When we are going to make the comparison here, it will take some time before I set each parameter on the synthesizer. And I think that before we even start, I need to put some words before. To start off, there are two completely different types of synthesizers. To start with, Fourm is a complete analog synth, and Take 5 is a hybrid. You can read more about it on Sequential's website. The Fourm has a sound which is typical, more raw, and you can hear that the filter behaves very different compared to the Take 5. The big difference is of course explainable. Fourm has a Prophet 5 filter based on the revision 1 and 2. Take 5 has a filter of Prophet 5 which is based on revision 4, and they sound different. Another thing I notice is that the oscillator behaves different. This might be the implementation of them, but I don't know. I haven't been developing these synthesizers, so I cannot tell, but that's just what I believe. And to start the comparison, I will say like this. I won't cover things that the Take 5 can do that the Fourm cannot do. To make this fair and to make it more relevant, I center the knowledge here on the Fourm, and then what the Fourm can do, I will cover it on the Take 5, and there where we can hear the differences. Other way around would be completely useless, because this is like the least, like the one with fewest possibilities, and so it's from there we take it. So I think that I really want to point out the big important thing that are the differences, and I will highlight them to you, because we can easily, spend hours tweaking sound, listening and fool ourselves, or even get to conclusions. And I'm going to promise you that it's so easy to fool yourself when you're making a comparison. Just imagine this example, that if you try to play both synths at the same time, listen to this. And when you play both at the same time, you hear they behave like two oscillators. So just imagine how easy you can fool yourself when you're listening to both at the same time. And remember one thing. We have different, audible memory. Some has better, some needs to train it more. And it's hard to remember a sound, how it sounds between two synths. And as quick as you begin to listen like this, you're making it hard. So my suggestion is that we're going to take the parts that are really, really differences now. So to start with, as you might have guessed, let's listen to the filter. Single oscillator won't produce as much harmonics as we think always. But let's make the filter sweep. I wouldn't say that makes a big difference, The big difference begins when we have more harmonics to it and we use the resonance. So let's start with cranking up the resonance halfway on both. I bet that now we will hear difference. Already there, I was hearing a difference. But it's more obvious when we listen to two oscillators. But we are not going to listen it with filter sweep now. Instead, we are going to listen to double saw waves here on both synthesizers. And we're going to detune them a bit, because now you will hear a big difference that now they will sound completely different. What I think is that the wave beating is way more pronounced on the sequential form. On the other hand, on the take 5, it's a bit smoother. So already in general, I would say that take 5 has a more buttersmooth sound, and the form will have a little bit more grit to it. And now listen to this now when we are doing a wave beat and using the filter. Going to turn them both correct. Okay, they are beating in different speed, but we don't think so much about that now, but let me try to adjust it. Of course, now they sound a bit similar. And before we start with the filter, I want to point out something very interesting here. When we are tuning two synthesizers to reach each other, you can do that, I would say, almost like with any synthesizer, but that's not really where you hear the difference, because I think this is what fools many people when they compare one synth to another and say, yeah, they do sound the same. But we are only at one building block and we are turning them to each other, close to each other. So that's not even fair to say that synths would sound the same if they can do one result the same. Okay, let's take the cutoff now. And according to my judgment here, you can hear that the form is a bit raw. And we will notice it even more now when we are going to turn the resonance now. We put it halfway, I think that would be fair. Okay. Did you just notice that resonance point on the filter on the form was having much more higher frequencies? This one, I felt like it was making some distortion, you know, like smooth, warm distortion on the high frequencies, like the high point of the resonance. So, in my opinion, this one, here comes a big difference. This one makes the harmonics, when it uses the resonance, a little bit warmer and a little bit tiny distorted, and this one just makes them sharp. So perhaps that's the character of this synth, but that's just a simple answer to a complex question. But I don't think it's as simple as that, but that's just one point. And another thing that I notice is that when we are modulating the oscillator with the filter, the form sounds different there also. So let's do it. I think we start off with half frequency, half resonance. And I think we go down one octave on the both second oscillator. Now we're going to add a modulation here. So oscillator B will modulate the filter cutoff. So that's our target to do on the Take 5. Don't worry, I will set this up and we will listen again on these two examples. This will be a bit complicated to make a comparison of, because this one I need to enter the mod matrix. This has the analog approach with this potentiometer, but my suggestion is that we leave it at 30. So that should be something like opening it a little bit, and let's do the same on the Fourm. Now I'm not quite sure if I need to increase this more, so let's try it. We are around halfway now in the mod matrix value. And now we are at maximum. And this is not even at maximum. But now I'm not quite sure if, let's try to put it around 50 and see if there is some other things we need to tweak. The resonance wasn't the answer. So what was the difference is that the filter cutoff ain't the same position value as this. If this is half, that would be half. Doesn't seem to be that way. And I think I would dare to say that it's no further point to make any more comparison to try to match them. What we can make a conclusion now is that they are different. And of course here you can spend hours and hours and hours and tweak both synth to sound near the same to each other. But there is something to the Fourm that I like very much. And that's the sound in general. And I think that another thing that we can make, which is important to make a comparison now, is the contour generators. And I think that we are going to go back and reset the patches on both synthesizer to initialize patch now. Important to point out is that I've been making the volume matching as good as I can. And I would say that it was quite a big difference because program volume when it starts patch on the Take 5 is around maximum value. I think it's maximum value. So I had to reduce that a bit. And let's see what it was. So I reduced it to 100. On this machine, I had to put it at 108 to get this near. And remember that this is a stereo output and the Fourm has a mono output. So that has been need to be taken consideration there. However, now we're not going to speak about levels. What we are going to do now is to listen to the envelopes. I think we take only one single oscillator, a sawtooth. And we are going to close the filter halfway. We have no resonance. And I can promise you that here it will be a big difference because these synthesizers are very different to the envelopes. Which one do I prefer? Well, I would say like this. I honestly think that the Take 5 has envelopes that are so much more for example, to make smooth transition This one has also, but the form tends to be a little bit more snappier to my what I think. If we can trust that they have the same value, I'm not sure of it, but the potentiometers are around the same value at least. But this is a perfect example how you will, understand the synth when you're using it. And so the thing here is that this one feels much more snappier compared to this one. So let's add some resonance. You hear the difference? Perhaps there's some sustain here. Okay, my bad. I guess there were some sustain level also, but there are differences. And let's try to close them even more. So what I experience is that the envelopes are a little bit more snappier and faster on the form. And to my taste, depending on what music I'm making, I would say that I would like form in a lot of music that would be like techno, trance, and for the ambient and general style, I guess that the Take 5 would do the trick better for me, because if I want to go like experimental and things like that, I think the form would be the winner for me between these two. But of course, the listener at the end don't really care that much. That's the honest, because they are just listening to the song incomplete. They do not never listen to one single instrument. But we as composer tend to fall in love with one specific synthesizer and specific character of it in the sound. Nothing wrong with it. I mean, we need something to drive us forward, right? And I don't know really what more to cover, because these are like the fundamental building blocks that makes up the sound. The rest are values that you can tweak and things like that. Another thing that I would think could be interesting is listening to the LFO, how it behaves. And I think that one of the easier way is listening to it modulating a filter. So let's remove the contour of the filter. And let's assign the LFO. I think we listen to a triangle then, modulating the cutoff. And we can put like a little bit more speed. Let's do the same on the Take 5. To me, there are really no surprises here. Here, it seems like the analog nature of the form really makes the sound. You can feel how the LFO is behaving very sharp in modulating. The Take 5, on the other hand, with its hybrid technology, seems to get a softer result on the LFO modulating the filter cutoff. Let's listen again. And this also proves one thing here, which means that the Take 5 really shines when it comes to the smoothness. The Fourm, on the other hand, really shines when it comes to the sharpness, if that's even a word, the sharpness. And what about the speed then? I don't know, let's try to find a good position on the LFO first on both synthesizer. Perhaps something like that. And also, before we even put up the speed, can you really hear the difference now? I do hear some difference that the Take 5 tends in the filter with the resonance feel a bit, warmer, like it's smoothing off. Like adding some nice distortion on top. The Fourm, not the same way. But really, I cannot say that I would prefer the other one over the other, because this is so much subjective and depending on what I want for the sound and what I'm using it for. So it ain't easy, So let me try now to add the speed. To my ears, the Fourm is the clear winner when it comes to keeping the control in the speed, when it comes to the LFO, when you're going to extreme values. But I think this is thanks to the analog nature, and this is the hybrid technology. If you happen to be the hardware development on sequential now, I really hope that I'm saying something that would be true, so I'm not saying something that's wrong. But me as a musician, that's how I interpret the synth, how I feel it behaves. So it's quite fascinating how different it can be, just one component on the synth. And I'm aware of one thing also, that we haven't been using the drive now. But if we should use the drive, I would say that we should use the feedback amount here. And already there I can tell that that wouldn't make much sense, because the feedback is way more different. So I think we can of course make a comparison here with the LFO a bit slow, but I think it would be hard to get any good sense out of it. Okay, perhaps that would be a good starting point. Let's listen to the drive now. I would say that if you listen carefully, the drive really makes the signal a little bit fuzzy, or what to call it. It's like, smoothing it up a bit, adding some extra harmonics to it. Now this will be harder, because this one is brutal. And I would say that when we reach around value 10, it seems like we are past what the Take 5 was doing. Okay, so now continue. And when we reach around 57, we are really getting some extra harmonic. And to my experience, I would say that when it comes to the feedback, you really need to test it for every sound that you make, because this will differ so much depending on your cutoff point, your resonance, envelope amount and things like that. So the feedback needs to be tuned a bit to your desires. Same goes with the unison. That will also sound different when you make a unison detune, and that differs a lot between patches. And I guess that because this comparison was meant to be about the character difference between the two synthesizers, I would dare to say that we are already finished here with the most important and relevant parts. If you want me to take so much more other details, it would be something like this. Take 5 has a modulation matrix. You can do a lot with it. Fourm has the different approach, which is a Pro 1 style. It's very quick to access, very quick to overview. Might be confusing at the start, but once you get hang of it, it's pretty easy actually. Here you don't have so many more options for what you see. Here you have a lot of things in the menu for the mod matrix, and then you have 2 LFO. Here we only have 1. The only way to get another modulation source is to set the oscillator B to low frequency mode, which has been found on different synthesizers like Prophet 5, Prophet 6, OB6, Dragon 6 as an example. So where would I put the Fourm in the music? Well, to me, electronic music, I think that when I want a sound that is not overtaking too much, but I want the analog goodness, Fourm would be the option. If I want something that should be like more, organic, I wouldn't even think about this synth, because I would think more about Prophet 6, Prophet 5. Okay, then we have the other, Trigon 6 and OB6, but something that would be a Prophet-ish, And I think also this synth sounds so different compared to the Pro 3. When it comes to the Take 5, it's a bit different. I would say that this can make so many cool sounds, and the sounds on the Take 5 are more of a modern approach. This is of course a bit of a modern approach also, but you tend to stay in the domain of the typical analog synth sound. Here, since you have the mod matrix, you're able to do so many other things. And thanks to having the 2 LFO, one global and one which is per voice, also known as polyphonic, gives another type of approach, because that will be for each voice. Here you have different shapes of the oscillators that can be easily changed and lerped between, and also modulated. Also the noise source can be modulated here. On this one you have noise sources, of course, that are different. Here you have white and pink. Same goes with this one. But you have a violet also. That one I like very much. And when it comes to another thing that can be interesting to know is that the LFO can be, both can be stacked like this. Same goes with the oscillator. So it means that it will blend the waveforms to a new waveform. Another interesting thing is the sample and hold. Sample and hold can be changed to different types. It can be random. Random will create a random value for each key step you make. Pink is pink noise, white is white noise if you want, and violet is violet noise if you want to modulate with noise. DC stands for direct current, and that's a static value. Static values are meant to be if you want to modulate with your mod wheel, like opening and closing a filter, then you should use this mode. This is a approach you need to do on an analog synthesizer. You have a different approach on Take 5 since you have a mod matrix. And so to my question, which synth do you prefer most? And it's a really, what I believe is like the hardest point when it comes to selecting between these two is that the initialized price on this one, and I'm going to be honest with you, it's not actually high as many might say, because this is premium built. It doesn't feel cheap in that way, but okay, I know that I've been complaining about the keys and the mod wheels. Okay, the keys, it's a new approach, not my cup of tea, but they are not bad in that way. They are reliable, they work well, and it's just that they are slim keys. I would say they are similar to a Jupiter XM if you play that one. I have one in my bookshelf. And the pitch wheel, the mod wheel, is a little bit smaller than they normally are on synthesizer. But I mean, it's very playable synth after all. I'm not sure with hand size and things like that, but to me it's okay. And also that so the price tag is like they didn't go too cheap on it, and I'm glad for that because it feels like this is something that will remain a very long time. But on the other hand, the Take 5, you pay some extra, and I would say that it's a big step upward. It's not that small, but it's like a threshold to go over. But on the other hand, you get so much more synth possibilities. I would say perhaps not sound-wise would be so much more, depending on if you're more simple, you want simple sounds, or if you want more complex sound, or if you like the sound of the Take 5, because the sound of the Take 5 is different. And just because it's a little bit different, it doesn't mean to say that this sounds better than this one. That's up to you and what type of music you're making. And here you have effect, you have reverb and some multi-effects you can select between. And when I say multi-effects, I mean like you can have chorus and you can have delay, bucket brigade and things like that. You can read more on the website, but you can only have one reverb and one of these selectable effects there. Reverb sounds really good on this one. This has stereo output. You have possibility to make pan spread, and pan spreading makes the sound really huge, I promise you. But the pan spread is not the button here. Instead, you need to go to the mod matrix, and when you're in the mod matrix, you need to select the source needs to be something like, let's see, voice spread, and the destination value needs to be panning. And now when you increase the value here, it will be the same as pan spreading. It's like when you turn the knob on a synth with pan spread, it's just that you increase this value. So it's just a different approach, but you get the same thing there. Yeah, it's, what can I say? Now you know the character difference, and you can dig so much more deeper. I would suggest you to visit the website, read a bit in the manual, but remember that the lack of effects can make a big difference when you're playing a synthesizer and programming it. It's very easy to get bored with the synthesizer when you don't have effects, but if you have effects, like effect pedals, just plug them in, and you have a very nice synthesizer, very nice sounding. Or you can use VST effects on your computer in your DAW. But I'm going to be honest that it tends to be complicated when we don't have effects in the synth. Even if effects aren't the best inside of the synth, even if they are not like an eventide, or if they're not like a lexicon reverb, you really feel when they're missing out because you need to do some extra work. But perhaps that's your style, perhaps you like it. So which one is for you? That's up to you to select. I will keep both. And in the beginning, I was so skeptical to the synth. Still, I mean, I have some things that I don't like with it. Of course, it's the form factor and things like that, because I like bigger synths. But what can I say? The sound is good, and I have the sound in a compact format. I can just pick it up, but it's not the synth that I like to keep in front of me and look at it, or I mean in my collection, because I'm like, yeah, that's the toy over there. Sorry, but that's just how it is. But it's a good sounding synth.